Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. I am Lala, international real estate agent, and your host for today. And we have a thought provoking episode lined up as we delve into the topic of should marriage be the goal for Black women? We'll explore different perspectives on marriage, relationships, personal goals, and I have a great panel of co-queens with me. We all come from different backgrounds and we all have different experiences with relationships. I have Athena Gardner, CPA of We Wealth Woman, Lindsay Vertner, international mind coach and speaker, Marlo Layson, journalist and TV producer, and Erica Lewis, author, Faith in Transition, My Journey to 50, Life Lessons and Love. Ladies, let's get into this. Marriage seems to be a pretty hot topic today. We hear a whole lot of things on social media about people who are looking for love. We've actually talked about this before where people were looking about dating and trying to get into relationships. And now we're going to discuss, is this something that a Black woman should really be looking for in her life? So I'm going to actually pull up some stats before we start talking, because I wanted the audience to kind of see what things look like in the world of marriage. In 2020, only 30% of African Americans were married, and that's compared to 48% of all Americans. And half or 50% of African Americans have never been married, compared to 34% of all Americans. That's a pretty large number, ladies. And I actually was kind of shocked by them because I've been married for 31 years. So it's not something that I really think about a lot because I'm in a dedicated relationship and have been for such a long time. So Athena, our beautiful CPA, you are a single lady on our panel. And I want to chat with you about how do you feel that this fits in? Is this something that is a goal for you? And do you see a lot of women that come to you for their services who are single?
So addressing me, yes. Marriage to me is important if I'm going to have a relationship with a man. I just feel like it's the safest bet to do as a woman because within marriage, statistics shows that there's an increase in fidelity. There, we can build wealth together. If we're planning on having children, that has been a model that has shown to produce the more mentally, emotionally stable children and produce the best outcomes. And also, my parents have been married for 40 years, so that's been a model. I don't have a lot of fears around marriage because I've seen a marriage last that long. I feel like, especially when we're going to go in further with the video, a lot of people have these hangups, especially in our community, around marriage because they have not seen either good examples of marriages or marriages that have lasted a long time. I feel like once you have, it kind of removes a lot of that fear. The second question about whether there's a lot of single women that come into my practice, that answer would be yes. And I also advise them on why, especially financially, since it's a woman's finance channel as well, that as a single woman, you're more vulnerable because all your sources of income are reliant on you. You do not have a partner to kind of hedge any kind of financial crisis or anything like that. So that's also another motivation I feel like women should look into as far as marriage.
That's a great answer. But when you're dating, do you come into that when you're definitely with the intention of letting them know that you are looking for marriage?
When our dating is different. When it comes to dating, I put on a different hat. So when it comes to dating, marriage is not the goal, but the byproduct for me. So I don't want to be led by desire so much that I accept what I should not be accepting because I just desire to be married. And I feel like a lot of women fall into that trap or try to sensationalize or look through rose-colored glasses to try to make something work that maybe might not be meant to work because you do want to be married. I do factor in, especially with me, the character traits that I feel people need to have in order to make a marriage work long term. To be honest with you, and it can be a whole other session and topic, I do feel a lot of us lack the life skills, especially in our community, lack certain skills, conflict resolution skills, communication, emotional regulation. We can just go down the list, especially with men that I've been dating, that lack those things that are necessary to be a great, productive, loving partner long term. So
Hmm.
that's been the biggest issue, actually.
Erica, you have written about love and relationships, and you too have relationship goals. I would like to hear your take on that. When you are headed into a relationship, and you know this a goal that you're looking for, do you actually think about having that conversation at some early point with someone you're dating?
Yes, 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 and yes. Did I say yes? Because in the past, I did not do that. And my last relationship, which was 4 years ago, I really had to take a step back and look at me. And I actually implemented some rules and regulations. And I saw a comment just a minute ago that said that communication all starts with the Bible. Yes. And that is what I went back to. So my process for dating is vet first, date, court, lead to marriage. That is the goal for me. Vetting. You have to start vetting people. You have to start asking questions. Then once you start asking questions and they vet you, they're clearly vetted, and you're like, okay, I want to go next steps. Then you start dating. When you meet someone, it should not start off with a $300 meal at a fancy restaurant. It needs to start off with coffee. It needs to start off with tea. It needs to start off with a walk in the park. You don't want to get into anything through rose-colored lenses and get blinded by shiny things. And the next thing you know, it's like, well, wait, what? You don't, wait, what? You have food allergies. You don't like this. So it's like we don't do the vetting process. If you enjoy seafood and then you get into a relationship and 6 months later you find out that this person is allergic to shellfish and now you can't eat seafood, now you got a problem. So I think that the vetting, we need to do more vetting as women, then start dating, then talk about courtship, and then talk about marriage, because in between that vetting and dating, you're going to find out they may not want to get married, and boom, you can drop your losses and move right on.
That's definitely a great take. I think a lot of us have seen the video where there's this young lady who was very upset about someone taking her to, what was it, Red Lobster or something, and she was very,
Oh,
very.
girl, the Cheesecake Factory, which is very expensive, by the way.
It is to me. I didn't understand that. Marlo, I want to throw this to you because you are a single lady. Is this something that you, in your beginning of your relationship, that you're looking for? Is this something that you would express to someone that you're dating?
Well, I was married for 19 years previously, and my significant other is he actually married the same person twice, right? So between us, we have a lot of experience with marriage, and I think that the most important thing is when I got out of my first marriage, thinking about a subsequent relationship and whether or not I even wanted to try to be in a monogamous long-term relationship or perhaps even get married again was, can I really be this person's caretaker, right? Because I'm, no spring chicken anymore, right? So any relationship that I get in at this point, we're on the downward trajectory in terms of health and health implications and things like that, right? I lost my father at the same time that it was pretty clear that my marriage was not going to be reconciled. And I just was thinking, like, do I want to care for a person as deeply as I watched my stepmother take care of my father as he was dying from liver cancer? And so that's kind of what my mindset has been, right? Somebody that's going to uh, as much as we want to be nurtured, somebody that's going to nurture and take care of me, somebody who after a long day, I'm happy to see that person, right? You're like a breath of fresh air when I walk into the house. It it's simple things that I want now in a relationship after having been married for the amount of years. We had a great marriage, we had great children, but we simply outgrew one another, right? And nobody tells you that. Nobody prepares you for how do you grow together, and it's really something that you have to navigate. So I think that having had that relationship, married my high school sweetheart, we have 3 children together, I think my mindset shifted, and for me it's not as much about stability. I can create that for myself. It's more for me about having that long-term partnership. I don't want to be, in my older years by myself, but I also want to enjoy that time, and so that needs to be somebody who am I okay with absorbing as much time as a relationship does. And I think that that's something that people need to consider. Is all the shiny things are great, but in those quiet moments, that's why so many relationships broke up in COVID, right? In those quiet moments where you're stuck together, can we be stuck together, right? Yeah, marriage is a business, and if you don't have a good business partnership, your business will not last, right? And you guys will splinter, and then it'll be 2 businesses. So I think a lot of things have to be considered, just beyond the bright shininess of marriage, because a relationship does get into doldrums. And when it gets into doldrums, am I looking around trying to spice it up, or am I going to spice it up at the crib? And that's what people, I think, kind of miss in all of the mystique and magic of the way that we're sold marriage, I think, in the Western world.
I think those were some very excellent points. And we do have a video to show, but I want to speak to you as well, Lindsay, because you're also another married lady on this panel. When you first started into dating, is this something that you wanted in your life, or did you just kind of stumble into it? I do have some friends who never wanted to get married and then ended up falling in love, and then they're happily married now. So from your perspective, when you were dating, is this something that you wanted in your life?
For me personally, I definitely wanted marriage, but it was something that I wanted for myself because I was choosing that path for myself. Nobody was forcing that path for myself. A lot of people around me growing up, they might have been married, but they were divorced. And I know for myself, because I am a people person and I desire that companionship and I desire that partnership to create a legacy with someone, I personally wanted to be married. And I think it's important that we recognize that, because not all Black women, or not all women in general, want to be married. And so if you know that about yourself, then that's okay. But often society will push that on us, like the goal is to be married and have kids and do this. But if you don't desire that, recognize that about yourself, because then you'll end up in a marriage that is miserable, or you end up divorced down the line.
Great. And now I think we have really set the stage for the really big meat and potatoes, because we all have expressed and shown our relationships and our goals. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you understand who you're watching. You are watching Fly Nubian Money, and we are here every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you want to make sure that you text 87948, the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. So you never miss a show. You always can check out when we're coming on, and you can even go back and watch the replays, because we really tackle a lot of things that may be of interest to you. But I actually have some great news. Ladies, are y'all ready for this? Like, I need y'all to put your pom-poms up, because this is pretty big news. Fly Nubian Money is now on Spotify. So you can tune in Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. to catch all of us queens. And all you need to do is search Fly Nubian Money on Spotify and join us for the great discussions on mastering your mindset and maximizing your money. You don't want to miss out on that. Make sure that you subscribe, because if you can't see us on video, you sure can listen to us in the car, at work. You can just be relaxing to hear us, right? So make sure that you subscribe. I'm super excited about that. That's a pretty big deal. So before we get into the next segment, I actually would love to see the video about this one young lady that has a very interesting take on marriage. I'm not sure she has it right, but then again, what's right for somebody may not be right for someone else. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Let's go ahead and cue up this young lady and what she thinks. Okay. There we go. There we go. She's very interesting.
And he was like, babe, I lost my job. I'm like, all right, cool. So a month later, like the bills, it was time for the bills or whatever, and I'm like, the bills due, babe, or whatever. And he was like, okay, I'm not working. And I'm just in a month, like it's all kind of hustles. You could have been doing something or whatever. So I told him, I said, look, if I pay these bills, are you going to pay me the money back? This man had the nerve to tell me, why should I pay my wife back for paying our bills? I told this man from day one, my money is my money and his money is our money. Why should I spend my money paying the bills? Like, no, he should have paid me back. So that's when I decided, like, I can't be with this man no more. So I had sex with his homeboy. Like, we all cool. I texted his homeboy or whatever. We went together. I met up with him. And we was chilling, we was drinking or whatever. And I started venting. I started getting emotional. One thing led to the next. I did not purposely mean to do what I did with this, but things happen. Like, y'all understand what I'm going through. So, his friend ended up giving me some money or whatever. And he was like, babe, look, don't worry about it. Handle whatever you gotta handle. Like, his friend was every single thing I desire in a man. Like, everything I desire in a man. And, ain't nobody trying to hear my side. Ain't nobody trying to hear. So he came home and he was like, babe, I lost my job. I'm like, all right, cool.
Okay, ladies, I had a hard time watching that, but I'm going to throw it to Lindsay first. Lindsay, how do you and your husband maintain a strong partnership when you're navigating the ups and downs of marriage? And this includes financial and emotional. But in this case, this young lady is mostly talking financial. So I would love to hear how you and your partner come with this.
Listen. Okay, so we have to stop looking at marriage as a noun and instead look at it as a verb. It is something that you are doing actively every day between you and your partner. And this is why it's so important that you understand what you desire out of a relationship and what you desire for your future. And then, like our lovely queen Erica was saying, you vet a person to make sure that they desire the same goals. Now, I will give her credit because she said she told him from day one what she wanted from a marriage, and that fell through. And so she maintained her boundaries. So that's the only thing that I agree with her with, is maintaining her boundaries. However, I do feel that when you're in a marriage, you have to be able and willing to go through the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows. You're going to have some dark times. You're going to have some light times. And sometimes I got to carry you a little bit more. Sometimes you might carry me a little bit more, but both need to be putting in equal effort because you never know what's going to happen. How does she know? Like, she might end up in a wreck and in a wheelchair. And he's like, well, I never signed up to be married to somebody in a wheelchair. So it goes both ways because you never know what life is going to throw at you.
That is the truth. There is a thing called vows, right? And part of those vows are in sickness and in health. And I take my vows very seriously. So for our marriage, it is always a give and take. But we know that it's a partnership. Some days I'm down, some days he's down. But we're both here to uplift one another. So that was really hard pill to swallow. But Marlo, I'm going to throw a question to you because you are dealing with TV and you deal with media. Do you think that there is an impact on social media and the social media trends that Black women see marriage different or some, like, do you think that this has an impact on the relationships?
I think it absolutely does. I think that it doesn't have as deep an impact as I think we would like to think, but I think it definitely, especially for younger women, right? I remember when I was younger, people used to say, don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. They just tell you that with zero context, right? I don't know what that means, right? To me, in my young mind, it meant be a little sneaky, right? Like, that was my takeaway from it. So I think any information without proper context or understanding is a pathway to a misunderstanding, right? And I think that social media, where we have all of this kind of, the gender wars are always kind of bubbling up on social media. We always have, like, I think you referenced a dinner, unhappy with dinner video. I saw a girl who said she wanted lunch. The guy brought her to Shake Shack. She was mad. I don't know if these things are real or fake, but what I do know is that people want they want to show relationships, it seems. Now people don't seem to as much want to be in relationship as much as they want to display that they are in relationship, if that makes sense. And I think that that's where some of this kind of bobblehead nonsense kind of comes from. I mean, I applaud her. Like Lindsay said, she set clear boundaries. He overstepped the boundary. She wasn't willing. But that to me is not a relationship, because it's transactional, right? I do transactional business all the time. I don't all those transactional relationships aren't always they're not always relationships. They're just sometimes flat business transactions, right? I go to Kroger, I spend my money, they have things that I need, I take away the things that I need. I don't steal from them, they kind of steal from me, but that's what we have, right? Between Kroger and I, that's the relationship that we have. At home, it's not like Kroger, right? I fix a sandwich, I fix him one. He fixes a sandwich, he fixes me one. Some nights he cleans the house. Some days it's a partnership, and it is both of us contributing to the long-term outcome that we want, which is to be old and whatever happens when you get old, right? That's kind of the goal, is us doing this thing together and having a companion when things are fun, and also when things are a little bit tough and tight, right? But that to me is life. The social media keeping these gender wars going, I think that people just have to be vigilant. You got to know what you want, right? You got to know what's for you, because what's for me is not necessarily for Lindsay or for Lala or for anybody watching in the audience, right? But it's for me. And so I should be happy with that, and not let what outside perception, let that change that for me. And I think that the outside is what's kind of affecting people on the inside, right? Those perceptions are a lot that we see in social media. So very damaging. Yes.
Totally agree. Totally agree. If you are just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. We are here Monday through Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we discuss things that, everyday things that should be important in your life as well. I am joined today by my co-queens, Athena, Lindsay, Marlo, and Erica. But also I want to mention our exciting news today. We are now on Spotify, so you can check us out on Spotify. Just look for Fly Nubian Money, and you will find us there. And you won't miss very many wonderful conversations that we have. But if you just feel like you're not going to remember, and you just want to see us, and you want to be reminded, go ahead and text Queens, Queens, and you can text that number very simply from your private little assistant right here to 87948. Now let's get back into this discussion. Erica, are we in the "what have you done for me lately" phase? Are we still in this? I mean, that was an 80s song, right? But are we in a culture now where we feel like, what is it that you can do for me, and not even think about what you can do for them? Because as that video said, she was like, my money is my money and your money is our money. So I would love to hear your take on that.
This young lady, to me, and I'm just again going by what I saw, there was a void in her growing up. Yeah. And when there's a void in your growing up, because I had one, my parents divorced when I was 14. So I didn't get to see that full balance of mommy and daddy. And then when mommy and daddy were together, there was, tumultual. And then he booked and bailed. My father went and moved overseas and never came back to the States. So I know what that's like to have that little piece of a void. And you have to heal first. You have to heal your little girl who did not get to have her daddy for whatever reason. Because when you get married or you start dating, those men fill other voids in your life. They're not here to pick up where your daddy left off. That's not his responsibility. He's not here to be your father. He's not here to be your uncle. He's not here to be your big brother. He's here to be your help mate and to move you into the next phase of adulthood and in womanhood, so that now you can be a mother and you can do other things and you can, start making investments into family and start creating legacy. We can't start creating legacy and longevity in our lives if we are unhealed in who we were as a child, as a kid. So you can't go from here, and then have this big gap in space and think you're going to get here and have legacy. No, you have to heal first. And it is not that man's responsibility to heal us. We have to stop wanting to fill the void with having a wedding instead of preparing for a marriage. It looks like nobody's preparing to be a wife, but everybody's prepared to be a bride.
That was right on point, completely on point, because that's what I hear most of the time for young ladies. They got this thing of this fairy tale thing they want to grow up, but we instill that a lot into our girls, of you want to be the fairy tale, you are this and you are that, and you want the wedding dress, but we're not giving them the skills sometimes to go into the marriage, to keep the marriage going. It's more than just coming down the aisle and having these huge weddings. In my personal opinion, that didn't matter for me. My husband and I got married and there were 7 people at my wedding, and I bought my little white dress off of a rack, and I didn't care that my little ring was not the most expensive. It was the relationship and the going down the life path that was more important to me. So you and I see exactly eye to eye on that. I think we need to.
One of the things that I talked about when I wrote my book is that I encourage women to, it was chapter 17, are you a bruised or broken rib? In the Bible, a rib was taken from Adam and Eve was created. I'm paraphrasing. And in the process of that, you look and see, where do ribs come from? Your ribs are your thoracic area, and they protect all of these organs in that area. And those organs help you to breathe and function and get through life. And if there's a bruised or broken rib, all of those organs that those ribs are protecting, they're now in danger because there's a bruised or a broken rib in there. So when you think about it, is how damaging are we if we are not healed going into a relationship, going into a marriage? You can do more damage to that man because you are healed and unbroken than you would have if you just went on ahead and took time to go heal, take care of yourself, and then see if you are fit, if you're the rib that fits into that relationship. I also encourage folks to get a pen and paper and sit down, do some math. How many women in your family have been married 10, 15 years or longer? If you can't find at least 2 or 3, there may be a little bit of a historical thing going on there. So you need to start going back and looking to see, well, wait, what's going on? This might be a generational curse. This might be an issue. There may be some bad habits I need to break. There may be some more healing that needs to be done throughout the lineage. So really sit down, grab a pen and paper, and look at all the women in your family and see who's been married 10, 15 years and how many are divorced, how many had kids, how many were single mothers. Start looking at that so you can see what changes you need to make in your life.
Great advice. Athena, in the video, it was all about mine is mine and yours is mine. But you deal with money and you are a CPA. So can you provide advice on how to maintain your financial independence while managing a shared expense in a marriage? Because obviously this young lady doesn't feel like it's an equal share.
This is often a very complicated topic for couples, and there's a book in my mind, but I can't remember it right now, that helps couples navigate shared finances. What I will say is this: whatever is agreed upon in the beginning or agreed upon in the relationship as far as the financial dynamics, if a partner goes against that, that's something that needs to be handled. But what I will say is, with marriage, you cannot predict life circumstances. So you have to be flexible in your thinking and flexible in your dynamics. I think she made a mistake because if your partner loses their job, you should be as supportive as possible in their recovery, because that is you want to see the relationship last long term. Now, if you just try not to work, that's a whole different thing. But I think that was a misstep on her part. I do think that when it comes to managing our finances, we're in like a new age. I know my parents who've been married for 40 years, they just they were broke together and they came up together. So everything was in one pot, right? And people who are married in older generations, that tends to seem to be how they navigate finances. I've seen it where that continues, and I've seen it where, okay, we'll have this shared joint account that we contribute to and pay our joint bills, and I have my separate accounts where I keep things separately. What I will say is the couples that have been married for a long, long time tend to have their money in joint accounts. And another statistic that I can share with you is that 45% of couples experience financial deception within their relationship. And financial deception can be anything from I spent money gambling and we about to lose a house to I have a mistress on the side that I pay for, all kind of things, or I spent a huge sum of money giving it to a relative and I never told you. So I think that is something that people do need to prepare for, and is something that needs to be considered. The last thing I will say is this: marriage requires a certain level of trust and vulnerability. And I find that whatever the reasons, whether it's slavery, race, whatever we want to throw out there, we as a people struggle with trust and vulnerability. And if you are not willing to work on yourself or and this is the man and the woman, we find ourselves being so defensive and cautious and have these strong boundaries because it's really out of fear that this person or this situation is not going to be viable long term. And we have to, one, do the inner work to be open to having trust and vulnerability, but two, like Erica said, vet for your partner to have trust and vulnerability so you can create that shared experience in your relationship.
Totally agree with that. If you are just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., sometimes a little over, but you're going to catch a good hour with us every day of the week, Monday through Friday. And if you don't want to miss any of our shows, you want to make sure that you text Queens, Queens, to 87948 so that you don't miss any of the shows. But the big news today on a Monday, on Spotify, me. So make sure that you look for us. So all you have to do is type in Fly Nubian Money and you will find us there as well. So you can take us on the road with you and you can just tackle and talk back to us. We love it when you talk back to us. We love the comments. We love everything that you have to say because maybe you come at it at a different perspective than what we do. And I'm really excited about that. So today I'm actually joined by my co-queens, Athena, Lindsay, Marlo, and Erica, and we are tackling the topic, should marriage be a goal for Black women? We have some stats that we want to share with you. And Lindsay, once we get finished showing these stats, I want to throw it to you to ask you your thoughts on some of these stats that are out here about marriage, and especially in the Black community. So let's go ahead and check those out. Marriage statistics by race. As you can see, number one is Black. There's 30% married, but there are 50% who have never been married compared to only 28% of the white population of America. Coming in with 43% have never been married is definitely Hispanic. So it's Black, and brown. So we do have a small sliver of separated and widowed and divorced, but I do feel that these numbers are extremely high for us at 50%. Why do you think this is?
For a few different reasons. One, we have to think about cultural differences because there are a lot of cultures where there are arranged marriages and you have people literally being set up to be married to their child
We lost Lindsay. So I'm going to throw it to you, Erica. What did you think about those stats? Oh, wait, she's back. She's back.
I don't know what happened there. I wasn't touching anything.
I don't know if it was the marriage gods or what.
They didn't want to say anything. So what I was saying, I'm not sure when it went off the screen, but what I was saying is we have to think about the cultural differences, because there are a lot of cultures where there are arranged marriages still to this day, where I am literally preparing my child to marry that family's child, whether they want to or not. So there's a lot of that going on. And then we got to think about the historical history of Black culture, where we weren't allowed to get married. And if we did get married, we had to, jump the broom. And that was our marriage ceremony, but it was never legal. So those are some of the things that could be a factor in some of these stats that just have transitioned with us along the years and just kind of stay that way. But we also think about there are wealthy families that are like, okay, again, prearranged marriages, and how many Black families actually do that, where we are forcing our children to marry other children for wealth creation or for cultural reasons and things like that. We don't really have that, at least in Black America, we don't really have that. So that could be a factor in some of those numbers as well, because I know for myself, although I didn't have a lot of Black marriages to model as I was growing up, my friends are changing that. I have a lot of friends that have been happily married, and they are Black couples over the years. And then I have some friends that don't want to be married at all. So kudos to them for recognizing that. But those are just some of the differences that we have to take into consideration when looking at numbers like that.
I want to address a comment that we have. The housing vlog said that she didn't agree, and I think she was referring to you, Erica, that there are stats showing that many men leave women when they are diagnosed with a terminal illness. And I would like to hear your thought on that. But Marlo, I don't want to skip you on this one, because you also mentioned, like I've mentioned, like being the vows and sickness and health. So Erica, I want to hear your comments, but then I'm going to throw it right to Marlo.
Yeah, I know someone personally who did that. He and his wife had been married 17, 18 years. They had 2 children, and she was diagnosed with MS, and she couldn't perform sexually. And he carried on with an outside relationship. Oddly enough, with that, what she said to him is, she said, "You know what? I know that I can't perform. Just don't embarrass me. Don't be seen with this woman in public. Don't, we'll just keep this between the 2 of us." What he instead started doing is he actually started taking the woman out, and he started making plans with her, got her pregnant. They have a child. He divorced his wife and married this other woman. And the only thing she asked him was, "Don't embarrass me." He left her ill. He left her with just a piece of his pension, that was left. He worked for the city. And it was just really heartbreaking, because I think what people fail to realize, in sickness and in health, it means just that, in sickness and in health. However, I do want to take a look at the vows where it says, "Till death do us part." And my question is, the death of what? The death of love, the death of financial ability, the death of emotional balance and well-being, the death of respect, the death of what? Because sometimes things die in a relationship. The 2 of you are still alive, but the piece of thing that brought you together is the thing that dies. So my question is, the death of what?
That was powerful.
I need to hop on that for a second.
Go. No, go ahead. I'm not going to miss you, Marlo, because I want your comment.
Okay. Let her go first.
Let Lindsay go.
Go.
No, I was just saying, I love that, because there are times where things die and things change. And when my husband and I went through our time of struggle, we had to make the intentional choice to work it out. Okay, what do we want? Are we going in the same direction? Because like someone mentioned earlier, you can grow apart, especially if one of you are healing and the other is not healing. Then you might be going on different pathways. And so you have to sit down and say, okay, am I willing to work at this thing called marriage? Am I willing to make marriage a verb, like I mentioned earlier? However, what I wanted to say about that part is that we had to decide, all right, something has died within this. Are we going to stick it out or are we not? And one thing that I had to recognize is that who I was when I was broken, when we met, is not attracted to the same person that I am as a healed woman. And so how do we make this come together, or do we need to go our separate ways? Because there is no bringing it together. Luckily for us, with my story, we wanted it to work and we were willing to do the work and heal and go to therapy and work on communication and work on, okay, who am I? Who are we? What are we together, so that we can make it to where we are today and be 15 years married.
That's powerful. And that this actually plays right to you, Marlo, because you did mention that. You said, you married your childhood sweetheart, and how did you deal with that when you knew that it was time to grow apart? What was it that you knew that you needed to step out differently?
It was heartbreaking, right? Once you sit back and you realize, and both of us came to the realizations at different times, but once you realize it, then you have to figure out a way forward, right? I had to be reintroduced to myself because my identity was tied into this coupledom. And I had to figure out who I was independently of, without that relationship. And so I feel like I've kind of been born again, right? Once I hit 40, it was like a reset, like a new life for me almost. Just in getting to know myself again, getting to set boundaries. And then of course you have to consider, what do relationships look like for me after you've been married and it hasn't worked, right? I don't like to say that my marriage failed, because it didn't. We tried, but the chasm between us was just too great, and it wouldn't have worked because we were two people, right? Two totally different people than who we were when we fell in love, like all those years ago in high school, right? We've had so many evolutions since then, and when we got to that third evolution, there just wasn't anything that we could do. But I do, like I said earlier, like relationships. I enjoy being in relationship. I don't want to be alone, but I am intentional with this relationship, and he is as well, right? The way that we move in this relationship is far more intentional than we've done before in previous relationships, because we've had that reset and we have both taken a step back and we kind of healed together in some aspects of us getting into 40 and learning who we are and who we want to be. I do like Erica's point though about generational, right? My grandmother was never married. Multiple my mother has two siblings that have the same dad. Everybody else got a different dad, right? uh, None of my aunts were married. If they were married young and divorced young. My mother was divorced. My parents were divorced, married for 15 years, then they divorced, right? I saw long-term relationships fall apart. I saw people never get married and be together until old age. I think that you have to, with everything, what are the best practices for you? How does a relationship work for you? I couldn't mimic my parents' relationship. I thought that I could, but what I learned is when you marry, it's your values and how you were raised and that person's values and how they were raised. And y'all are bringing that stuff together and trying to figure out the way to make these two separate lives and outcomes be one. Right now you got to rear kids together, you got to put money together. It's really challenging, and it's sad to see people are so kind of don't understand the nuances of marriage. I guess they don't understand all. You see the pictures, the wedding was beautiful, but what is a wife? What is a husband? And do you have in you what it takes to be that? because everybody probably can't even, everybody can't be a singer, everybody can't be a painter or a poet, everybody can't be Athena, the killer CPA, right? Everybody can't be everything. Can you be a husband or wife? And I think you have to look at yourself in the mirror and be honest with whether or not you can do that. And can you make sacrifices? Can you humble yourself in situations? And all of that is very, very crucial to success. I know y'all see it. I want a successful marriage, long term, long term, but you got to work at it. It's not something, definitely not something for the faint of heart. And it's not something that just kind of happens. It is very intentional. Like Lindsay said, it is active. It's a verb. It's something you got to want to do every day and put your heart into, really.
There's a song that I absolutely love that's called "Love Is a Verb" by one of my really good friends. And when he came out with that, I just could not stop playing it over and over because it is so true. If you are just joining us, you are watching some fabulous queens on Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We discuss the things that are important in our community and in your lives. We also help you master your mindset and maximize your money. I am here today with my co-queens, Athena, Lindsay, Marlo, and Erica, and we are delving into the topic of should marriage be the goal for Black women? We've talked about some stats. We've actually seen that we've all offered our own opinions, and we all come from different backgrounds with our relationships. But I also want to bring up something that is also very interesting. We have a video of another young lady who has a different perspective on marriage, and I would love to hear your take on this, ladies, because I found this one also interesting as well. So as we cue that up, I want you to get ready to brace yourselves for what she says, because I'm not sure we all agree with her, but isn't that the whole point? We have great conversations about it. So let's step back and listen to this young lady's take on marriage.
Willing to sign a prenup when you get married. Okay, this might sound crazy, but like, I don't want to be married legally. I just want a wedding, like the big wedding.
No, that's smart as hell.
Like,
No, it sounds crazy.
I don't, if that makes sense, like,
Chavis feel you.
I just want to like have the experience, like the wedding, the big wedding, but I don't want to sign no papers saying that we married, because for one, I don't want to go through the divorce process. Two, I'm not signing no prenup. And if like my money is my money and your money is your money, so like it shouldn't be, I don't want to have it. Would you be willing to sign a prenup when you get married?
Okay, I have some serious thoughts about this. I think she has it all twisted. But we did talk about it. I shared with you that when we got married, we only had like 7 people at our wedding. I didn't care. My mother was no longer living. So to me, that I missed the fact that my mother wasn't going to be there. But I did have some very important people in my life be there. And I bought my dress off of a rack, and it was just happened to be white. So the wedding wasn't a big deal to me. It was more important to me that I was marrying my life partner and what was going to come after. So the wedding wasn't important to me. But Erica, I want to hear your thoughts on this. And how do you feel about this young lady's take on marriage?
Yeah, see, she is already preparing for divorce. She's preparing for health. She's preparing for the hurt because she's been disappointed in other areas of her life. So she's looking for an event to have that's going to celebrate her because she's never been celebrated. And she thinks a wedding is the way to do that. No, girl, take yourself on a trip. You need to do some things by yourself. Get your passport, go to Paris, go to Rome, go somewhere, go to Australia, get an experience by yourself and celebrate yourself. Get to know who you are and spend time with you. You're not going to be able to get to know anyone else or allow them to get to know you if you don't know you. So that she needs to start celebrating herself. The worst thing she can do right now she shouldn't even be vetting anyone. She shouldn't even be exchanging her phone number with anyone. The only person she needs to be getting to know is herself, because she's going to damage the next person she interacts with, and then she's going to send him out into the world, and then it's going to be a domino effect where he's going to affect everyone because of how she affected him.
That's right on point. Athena, I want to throw this to you because you are the single one on the panel. Is the wedding more important than the marriage?
I would definitely say the wedding is not more important than the marriage. And I can tell from personal experience. So I've been engaged before. I've had 2 men who wanted to marry me before. I did premarital counseling, and we decided further on along not to go through with the wedding. When we were planning the wedding, I actually wanted to elope. I actually wanted something small and intimate. People are surprised by that because they just think I'm just this big diva that wants this flash all the time. But in my personal life, I'm very private and low key. He actually wanted a big wedding. So, there's that thing. I think that the marriage is important. And what I try to inform women about is you are only giving yourself this one day. And I feel like in this video with her, at least she was honest about her desires. I'm like, girl, if you just want a party, just throw a party and wear a white dress. You ain't gotta have a whole wedding for that. At least she was honest with herself about that. But what I do think is this: the marriage is the most important thing. The person you are marrying is the most important thing. The character of that person is the most important thing. And I feel like women don't think through what the marriage is and the things that you will be sacrificing and the things that you will be going through or experiencing as a woman to make that relationship work long term. And we get clouded by the one day. I was talking to my mom and my aunt. My aunt was married to my uncle for 41 years until he passed away. My mom's still married to my dad, 40 years. And we've had conversations, and I said to myself, wow, I feel like, to be honest with you, if women had those conversations that were honest about everything it entails to keep a marriage together for that long and the things that you will be called to sacrifice, the marriage rates would probably drop because I feel like we just focus on the day. And I think that, to Erica's credit, that the way she was talking about the marriage and the reason why she didn't want one was coming from a mindset of failure, was assuming that I need to have an out in case this doesn't work because I am assuming that it's not going to work. Or maybe I have not seen a lot of examples that it's going to work. And to be honest with you, I can just speak from my generation, that is a question of concern a lot of young single women have, if especially within our community, because there's just less examples of that. I mean, I have an example of that, but we do generally have less examples of that. So it's almost like I want to shield myself from any potential hurt or fallout because that's what I'm anticipating is going to happen.
That's a great point. Lindsay, I want to ask you something because we're going to tackle something a little crazy and we're kind of getting a little bit down on our time. But I want to ask you, what strategies do you recommend for couples to keep their relationship strong and resilient over the long term?
Mm-hmm. Well, first, I want to mention where your focus goes, your energy flows, and the thing you focus on, you attract more of into your life. So Erica was spot on when she said she was preparing for divorce because that's where her mind is. So that's where she was focusing, which subconsciously impacts your behaviors to match the thing that you're thinking, which is why we have to be mindful of what we're thinking with our thoughts, what we're saying with our words, because it influences our actions, which influences our reality. So there's that piece. And then to really make a marriage successful, whether you're preparing for marriage or you're already in a marriage, you have to put God first. Well, for me and my spiritual beliefs, we put God first as the foundation. And then you have to be willing to do the work, whether that's going to therapy, working on your communication habits, working on your self-identity, because it's easy to get lost up in the identity of being someone's wife or being someone's husband. You have to recognize who you are. So when those times come, when you have trouble, you can say, all right, I can stand on my own. You can stand on your own. We can come together and go further even faster. We have to heal those past traumas that we've been through, have to heal the past hurts that we've been through, and figure out what are we going to do together. That comes through communication, that comes through therapy, that comes with dating each other on a continuous basis. Sometimes we date in the beginning, we get married, we have the honeymoon, and then we stop dating. It's like, no, back to that working verb analogy, you got to keep doing the things that got you there in the first place, especially as seasons change. When you become parents, that's a new season. If somebody gets sick, that's a new season. You move, that's a new season. You start a new job. Those are all new seasons that require adjustments mentally, emotionally, sometimes physically and financially, that you have to be willing to do. But you got to talk about those things, process through those things, and work it out.
Totally agree. If you're just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. And as you can see, I am joined by some powerful queens who know their stuff. I'm excited to be on this panel, but you can catch us Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But if you don't want to miss that, you want to make sure that you type the word Queens, Queens, to 87948. And you also want to check us out on Spotify. Ning, 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 ning. Make sure that you go and look for us on that platform as well. We're pretty excited about it. Can you tell we're all giggly about it? I got my pom-poms up. Ladies, I am so excited about this conversation. I want to bring up one more thing before we tend to wrap it up, because this seems to be a new thing now, and I've seen so much controversy around this. There seems to be a trend of young ladies who are proposing to men. And I would actually like to hear your thoughts on that. It's becoming common. I've actually seen some where the men were very upset that the women did this and walked away. I've actually seen some men accept it and say yes. But it also is so controversial. It always gets 50-50 conversations. So I'm going to throw it to you first, Erica. How do you feel about this trend of a woman proposing to a man?
I don't like it. I don't like it because as a man, sorry, I don't like it.
She leaned in for that answer.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. You know, when men decide to get married, they're taking on the role of provider, protector, and everything else that goes along with it. As a woman proposing to him, you are taking away his ability to identify if he is ready to take on this role. You're now putting him in a position that he may not be ready to be in, but he doesn't want to hurt your feelings. He doesn't want to embarrass you and say no. Now, you got some of them that will say no, and bravo to those brothers that say no. However, when you're a woman and you feel like, well, I've waited long enough and he hasn't proposed to me and I want to move this thing along, it could be you need to take him back to the vetting stage, because you have gone too far along in your head, because you were not vetting, you were not dating, and you were not courting. The only person that was doing all of that was you. He was just kind of going along for the ride. Please stop begging and asking these men to marry you. I do not agree with it. I do not agree with it. I do not.
She does not agree with it. Milo, give me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, no, it's funny. We actually had this conversation jokingly. I can't remember why it came up, but he was asking me, and I was like, you waiting for me? That means it's not gonna happen, right? I'm not traditional in many ways, but everything that Erica said, I totally agree with. I think that you taking the reins, right, and asking this man to marry you, it's kind of out of step with what we understand to be the role of men and the role of women, whether you want to be traditionalist. I'm not talking about washing dishes and birthing babies. I'm just talking about men are the stronger, dominant hunter gatherers, women just like on a very base level of who we are as people. To me, it's out of the natural order. So it's not going to happen. Big Dog knows I'm not about to ask you. I'm not getting down on a knee. I'm not presenting a ring. We will cohabitate in full sin, if you will, if that is the case. If that's left up to me, but only because, not because I don't think that he is worthy, right, of being my spouse, but because I think that it just takes us out of the natural order, right? And I think that once you get down that slippery slope of being out of the natural order, then you just kind of out of it for good. And if he wants you, he will ask, sis. That still applies in my book.
I love that answer. Now, Athena, now listen, I saw your face, okay? So I think I already kind of know what you're gonna say. Because you're like me. You might ask me a question. My face says it first. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, please.
All right, ladies, I understand a lot of these men have you on a 12 years a slave timeline when it comes to commitment and wanting to have a relationship and a marriage. I do not believe under any circumstances that you should be proposing to a man. Something about that just like irritates my spirit. It looks crazy to me. But outside of my feelings and how it looks and whatever, I feel like men know what they're doing. They know who they want. If he has you on a 12 years a slave timeline, it means that there's something about the situation he's just not willing to sign up for. You might be a placeholder girlfriend. I've seen that happen a lot. You might be, it might be him. He might not want to marry anybody, but he's not going to tell you that because then the benefits of being in a relationship with you are going to be gone. What I always advise women to do, you have your own timeline in your head. And if he does not meet, you don't see what you need to see or experience what you need to experience in that timeline, the next day you get up and you go. There's no argument. There's no forcing him. Because one thing, the ultimatum and forcing and all of that doesn't go over well. And he will hold that resentment. If he even chooses to do so, he will hold that resentment against you for the duration of that relationship. And I also feel like this, you have to know your worth. And I know a lot of things are painful. It is painful to invest time and energy into something and it not work out the way you want it to. But you are also responsible for the time that you give in that relationship. And I know a lot of people will not tell you that. And I know a lot of these men will not say that. My final thing is also this. If you are in a relationship with a man for 2 years and he has not brought up the word marriage, brought a ring, nothing on his own, 2 years and a day, you need to pack up your stuff and go. It does not take them that long. Trust me, I've had men propose to me less than a year. And for the people I know who engage in marriage, especially after college, right away, less than a year. And especially if you're in 2-year mark, you're a placeholder, sis, and that's what it is. Do not force these men to do what they don't want to do.
I agree. Lindsay, I want to hear your take on this because we actually had a wonderful comment about something that I want to talk about before we end today. But how do you feel about these young ladies proposing to men?
I don't like it. I agree with all my co-queens up here. I do not like it. I'm a very modern, traditional woman. I'm very modernized. I like to have my business, make my own money, do things on my own. But I also like for my man to lead me. And I like some of those traditional roles. He who finds a wife finds a good thing, not the other way around. So yeah, that very straight and to the point. I'm not for it. And I will be teaching my son and my daughter the traditional part of what a marriage looks like in a modern way. Like everyone helps each other. You both can contribute however you decide to do the finances. You both contribute to the household. You both contribute to the parenting, however that looks like. But when it comes to who's asking who, okay, son, you need to know what you want in a wife, but be willing to be a good husband. Daughter, you need to know what you want in a husband and let him find you because he knows, all right?
I love that answer. Guys, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. If you're just tuning in, you are catching us discussing a very hot topic of should marriage be the goal for Black women? I am joined here by my co-queens, Athena, Lindsay, Marlo, and Erica. And you can catch us Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but you also can catch us on. You want to make sure that you look us up and listen to us and take us on the road with you. And if you don't want to miss anything at all, you definitely want to text Queens, Queens, to 87948 so you can be notified when we go live. And you also see what we're talking about. Go back and watch the replays. Comment, talk to us, let us know what your thoughts are, because this is an open conversation. But ladies, someone actually had an awesome question for us in the comments, and it involves matriarchy. And it was posted by Spirit Led Poet, I do believe. So if we can bring her comment up, I would love to address this before we start heading out. But it was such a great, we have talked about um, looking at our people around us, our family, people who have been married, using them as an example. Do you feel that it is very, very important for the matriarchy to be important? And I'm going to wrap this into our final thoughts as well, because I think it actually ties into the complete subject of should marriage be the goal for Black women? So, Erica, I'm going to throw it to you first. Give us your final thoughts. Then please make sure you let everybody know where we can find you.
I think your life's goal should be whatever you want it to be. Marriage is not for everyone. Once you've done your healing, because you need to heal to be in any kind of relationship, whether it's platonic, whether it's friendship, whether it's business, you need to heal any broken piece of you in order to be able to get along with anyone. So if you do all of that healing and you still say, you know what, I like sleeping in my bed by myself. You know what, I like driving by myself. I like vacationing by myself. Honey, there's nothing wrong with being single. Your goal should be to be happy and successful, whatever that looks like for you. I talk about that, like I said, in my book, Faith in Transition. Life, Love, and Lessons. It was my journey to 50, and I had to accept some things. I do want to get married. That is my ultimate goal. There were no successful marriages in my family that I saw of, and I went back quite a few generations. So I believe I'm a generational curse breaker, and that's what I want to do. So you can find me at faithintransition.com, or you can find me on all of the social medias under Miss Erica Renee.
Love that so much. Thank you for your commentary. Make sure that you go and follow her. She has some excellent things. Marlo, I'm going to throw it to you. Give us your final thoughts on this, and let everybody know where they can reach you.
I think that everybody should do whatever is best for them. But I think that being realistic when you go into a marriage, especially when you start talking about, property and children and potentially starting businesses, even the intermingling of families, right? Like, I'm from New Orleans, so there everybody is family. So when you marry, a lot of times you get adopted into, or the two families become one, right? So I think that going into long-term relationships and marriages just with your eyes wide open and with a realistic perspective, and also going into it not looking for the door out, right? Going into to marriage, speaking of divorce, it's gonna land you in divorce court. I think you go into it looking for to attain whatever goals you've set for yourself, but I think you have to be honest with your partner about what those goals are, understand what that person's goals are, and figure out what the best way forward is for the both of you, so everybody gets what you want. But then you also are building this strong legacy so that your name too can be on the Black Family Reunion T-shirt at the top of the tree, right? Like,
I love that. I love that.
I'm a journalist and digital writer. You can find me all over the digital internet streets, offering commentary or trying to hold government officials accountable for their actions and legislation. And you can find me on Instagram. I am Ola Marlo. That's my first name backward and forward _.
Awesome. Thank you. Lindsay, I'd love to hear your final thoughts, and please share where we can find you as well.
As I mentioned before, if you don't get nothing else from me today, remember marriage is a verb. It's something you must actively and intentionally work on day in and day out. Be willing to pour into, do the emotional work, the mental work, the spiritual work, whatever it is. Communicate. And if you're not a good communicator, maybe that means you need to go to therapy so you can learn how to effectively communicate, how to effectively manage your emotions, manage each other's emotions, and continue to date each other. And as always, put God first. And then be careful who you allow into your marriage, because that's something that I see often as well. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, and that can cloud the recipe. So just be mindful of who you're allowing into your marriage, who you're listening to for marital advice and things of that nature. And remember, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And the thing you focus on, you attract more of into your life. So those are my final words. I am Lindsay Vertner, international mindset coach and speaker, and you can find me at liveafirstclasslife.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Lindsay. And Athena, I would love to hear your final thoughts, and please share where people can find you.
Listen, whether you want a marriage or not, whether you're single, in a situationship, 12 years a slave timeline, whatever it is, as a woman, you're going to need to always understand your financial strategy throughout all stages of your life. And if you want one, or if you want resources and tools to help you grow your wealth and abundance, you can find me at wewealthwomen.com. You can also find me on all social media platforms at We Wealth Women, and listen to me on Apple, Spotify, or Google at the We Wealth Women podcast.
Thank you, Athena. And I am Laura Key, also known as Lala. I'm the international real estate agent. And my thoughts are this: you can have, be, and do anything as long as your mindset is right. When you get off to a bad foundation, then your ground is always going to shake. So make sure you are in the right place in your headspace. And then also have those tough conversations before you put that ring on it, because that will carry you a very long way. I have been blessed to be around people in my life, all my aunties and uncles, married for many, many years. And now I am the one who is the veteran who can help the others in my family as well. I'm proud to say that. And you can find me everywhere. I made it easy. Just hit me at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. And you have joined us today on Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. And we have had such a wonderful, thought-provoking conversation about, should marriage be the goal for Black women? So you want to make sure that you catch us every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have great conversations, and I always have wonderful queens here, and you're going to learn something, and something's going to hit your hot button. So make sure that you follow us, share, comment, but then now you get to follow us on Spotify. So make sure that you go and look for us there. We will see you next time. Have a beautiful day. Bye. Thanks, ladies. I love this conversation.